Chapter 1 Thief. The empty stone corridors echoed with each step. A man in dark grays and black moved swiftly, forcing each padded footfall to remain silent. The steady rhythm of marching boots ahead was his only warning of incoming patrols. When the sounds drew closer, he pressed himself into alcoves, behind curtains, or slipped through doors. Once he flattened into a shallow niche as 10 men in red robes passed. Anywhere they had exposed skin bound in loose white cloth. He held his breath until they disappeared into the distance. Only then did he exhale, long and slow. Minutes stretched like hours. At last, he reached an ornate locked door, producing a small embroidered disc. He pressed it to the mechanism. After 10 seconds, a click echoed, and the door opened. Inside, shelves of books lined the walls. A polished wooden desk stood at the center with a single drawer. He rifled through it, swearing when he found nothing. As he turned to leave, the door swung wide again. A woman in black entered, flanked by two of the red-robed patrol from earlier. Unlike them, her face was uncovered. Beautiful. "Rylan?" she said simply. "You came to steal from us?" Rylan leaned casually against the desk, feigning ease. "I think you mean you've got something of mine." He smiled, sharp and disarming. "Someone once told me, if you can't keep track of your things, they aren't really your things." A smirk touched her lips. "Someone sounds like an asshole." Rylan drifted towards the shelves, trailing fingers across the spines of books. "I'm here for what's mine. You should come back to the Shapers, Rylan," she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes tracked every move. She knew the thugs behind her were less than useless against him. Rylan was her equal. One of very few of her actual peers. Ha! His laugh was bitter. "How you can't see the rot in your institution will always be beyond me." "I am the institution," she snapped. "The only reason you're still alive. That and my charm, looks, talent, aptitude." Rylan turned to her with a wide grin. "And the fact you couldn't kill me on your best day. Don't test my mercy, Rylan." Her posture stiffened. "Give her back, and I'll tell you where you went wrong with your wards." His grin never faltered. "I wrote and inscribed these words myself," she said coldly. She told herself they were unbreakable, though she dared not speak that aloud. "She's important to my plans," Rylan admitted, the grin slipping just a little. "I don't want to replace her. It's a lot of extra work." Moira's lips curled as she produced a small, round metallic object. Ashamed to lose such little trinkets, Rylan's eyes locked on it, though he didn't reach. "What do you want, Mora?" "Come home, Rye." The words were almost a plea. "The Shapers aren't my home," he replied bitterly, pacing a slow circle, putting himself between her and her men. "And you think you'll fight all of us?" she mocked. "I'll fight you, if I must." His fingers skimmed along the wall as he passed between her and her guards. "I told you I am the Shapers." She tried to lean casually on the desk, but the tension in her shoulders betrayed her. Rylan laughed honestly. "Give her to me, and I'll leave. If you're the Shapers, you'll answer to no one." She winced, knowing he was right, hating that he saw it. "You know I can't." "Then admit it. You and your order don't see eye to eye. Join me." Rylan stepped neatly into the trap she laid, flanked now between Moira and her guards. Instead of springing it, she tossed him the metallic object. "Don't kill them." It wasn't a plea, just a request. "I wouldn't have," he smiled. The moment it touched his hand, the object vanished. Moira flinched. The wards should have barred spatial manipulation. "Why sneak in then? Why the performance?" "I just wanted to see you." His grin softened into something tired, almost sad. Silence stretched between them. "Did you know it wasn't everyone?" His voice broke with defeat. The red-robed guards mistook this moment for a weakness. In an unspoken signal, they rushed at him. "No!" Moira shouted, lifting her hand. Too late. Before they completed a single step, they were gone. No struggle, no flash of power. One moment they existed, The next, they were erased, plucked from the universe as if they'd never existed at all. Sorry, Mora, Rylan whispered, his face heavy with sorrow. Then he too vanished. Alone in the silent library, Mora lowered her hand. Her voice was quiet and aching. Me too, old friend. Me too. Chapter 2. Plans. Morgan paced nervously around the lavish living room. The house smelled faintly of artificial cookies from 2 candles she'd lit, an old habit from trying to attract buyers, even though that was not her role today. She chafed at the stiff business suit, longing for the casual comfort Liz enjoyed as she lounged like a sun-warmed cat, sipping water and watching the window for the others. So, how long until the farm is ready? Morgan asked, aiming for casual but feeling sweat bead under her hairline. We should have everything set next month, Liz replied easily. She glanced at Morgan with a sympathetic smile. Relax. 100 people or so will come through this house today, and you're not breaking any laws. Maybe not, Morgan said, swiping her sleeve across her forehead, but the office wouldn't want me hosting meetings in a model home either. If anyone asks, we're just a group of prospective buyers requesting a private showing. Liz spotted a car pulling into the driveway and sighed in relief. Back up for Morgan's nerves. Hank's here, she said. Morgan stepped to the window, eyeing the vintage farm truck. To her, it looked like a big, ugly relic that should be left to rust somewhere. He brought the truck, she groaned, rolling her eyes. It's a classic, Morgan. People with money drive classics, Liz said, for what felt like the 100th time. I still don't see the difference between classic and piece of junk. The difference is thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, spent restoring them. Liz didn't bother moving from her seat. Nothing she said ever eased Morgan's tension. Instead, she stayed the picture of calm. I'm just worried one of my bosses will come by and start asking the wrong questions. Morgan filled a glass with water from the kitchen sink. Liz laughed. What are they going to torture our social security numbers out of us and run a credit check? Morgan glared at her. How many people do you show houses to who never seriously even consider buying? Liz pressed. A lot. Morgan knew her worry was silly, but hosting what felt like a covert, maybe even illegal meeting in show homes ranked somewhere between hunted for sport and giving a presentation to her supervisors while wetting herself. The door opened. Hank and Adam walked in. Hank wore shorts and a t-shirt featuring a nearly naked woman and some band logo. Morgan shook her head. Adam, at least, had slacks and a button-up, though no tie. Not perfect, but better. Jerome and Nina not here yet? Hank asked, kissing Liz on the cheek. Not yet, Morgan huffed. Maybe we could start anyway, please? The group exchanged looks. Hank shrugged. Sure, Liz said brightly. I'll catch them up when they arrive. Hank filled a cup of water and moved to the small, freshly placed plants the real estate office had arranged. He poured water into the soil, brushed the leaves, and the blooms unfurled in his hands. Like a time-lapse, sped to real time. He moved plant to plant, using a full glass of water each, before returning for a refill. Show off, Adam muttered. Morgan opened her mouth to comment, then thought better of it. So, you all heard about the transformer explosion downtown? Liz began hurriedly, partly to distract Morgan, partly to get to the point. 30 people were hospitalized. Several city blocks blacked out. Papers calling it a freak accident. Yeah? So what? Adam asked. You think it was a mage? Morgan asked, taking her cue from him. I hate that you're calling us that, Hank said without looking up. What the hell am I supposed to call us? Morgan shot back. It doesn't matter, Liz tried. I don't know, Hank admitted. It just sounds so Harry Potter. Isn't it kind of like that? Morgan asked. No, Hank said firmly. There's no school, no mentors, nothing like the movies. Books, Morgan corrected. They were books first. Guys, Liz's voice rose. Not important right now. The Transformer event. Focus. Transformer event makes it sound like a movie too, Adam said with a chuckle. Liz leveled a look at him. What? It does. Still unimportant, Liz said, exasperated. I think it was a mage. She rushed the word before Hank could object. He rolled his eyes so hard that his head followed. Shut up, sweetheart, Liz said. I didn't say anything. Anyway, Nina's a nurse at the hospital. She can tell us everyone who is hospitalized. That gives us a list of potential adepts. Wouldn't an electric mage not be hospitalized from electricity? Morgan asked, deliberately emphasizing the word. Liz faltered. I didn't think of that. Maybe they don't have control, Hank offered. Could be a mistake. They might not even know they're attuned to magic yet. Liz nodded. Yeah, if Nina gets me the list, I can track them down and interview them. What about Officer Dickhead? Adam asked darkly. If you thought of this, so has he. Morgan shuddered. Hank stared at Adam. Silence stretched. Even more reason to pursue this, Liz said finally. If they don't know they have powers and we don't find them first. Hank nodded slowly. Fuck that, Adam said. I watched that bastard kill someone. I'm not putting myself in his path. I'll do it, Liz said. I'll be right there with you, babe, Hank offered. No, you won't. We're going to split up, cover more ground. I don't know about that. Start knowing, Liz cut in. He doesn't know about us, and there's no reason to think that he suspects anything, legal or magical. Hank glared at her. I don't care if you don't like it, Liz pressed. We need to find this adept before he does. I'm out, Adam said, pacing all the way out. If Elon's shuttles to Mars out. Morgan nodded. It's not worth dying for. Sorry. But you'll let someone who doesn't know they have powers die? Liz demanded. Morgan crossed her arms. You weren't there, Liz. Neither were you. Not really, Liz snapped. Liz, babe, stop. Hank crossed to her, gripping her shoulders. I'll help. We'll split the work. See if anyone's one of us. Liz glared past him at Morgan and Adam. Liz, Hank's voice was firm. Take a breath. Go outside. Morgan and Adam shared a look. Part mutual comfort, part unspoken agreement. Fear held them firm. They wouldn't risk crossing paths with that monster. Not now, not after what happened. Well, Liz started. Enough. Hank shook her shoulders gently. Go outside, call Nina, get the list. We'll do this together. He walked her to the front door and let her out. Hank turned back to his friends. Sorry, guys, I get it. I'll talk to her. We'll handle it. You don't have to help. Morgan's defiant posture crumbled. She hugged herself, tears sliding down her cheeks. Adam met Hank's eyes. Thanks, man. Sorry, too. It's just... He let the rest hang. I know. We'll meet up again soon. Hank opened the door and left. Liz leaned against the side of his truck, her eyes a volatile mix of frustration, rage, and sorrow. She melted into a hug he offered. Why can't we just tell the police? Turn them in? Her voice cracked. You know why. We have less than no evidence. Sam vanished, and all we know is what Morgan and Adam told us. Sam wouldn't disappear without a word. Hank paused. He's gone, babe. He's gone. The words came out soft, barely audible, as if speaking them stole his air. Liz broke, sobs racking her. She clutched him like a life raft in the storm. I just don't want to believe it. I know, Hank whispered, rubbing her back. I know. Chapter 3. The Hospital. Aaron couldn't tell if he was dreaming or awake. Nothing felt real, yet everything seemed a little too real. The machine beeped steadily behind him, its rhythm marked by a flashing light. His vision blurred, and whenever he focused on one thing, the rest of the world spun violently away. Shadowy shapes drifted past the doorframe, always too quick to catch. The room was neither bright nor dark, suspended somewhere in between. It felt like a dream that insisted on being noticed. His head throbbed when he tried to think, worse when he tried to move. He had never felt so heavy in a dream, like his body existed far away and he was only its distant pilot, the connection broken by static. Glimpses came and went, details appearing in sharp relief before dissolving back into nothing. His thoughts lagged, arriving seconds after he seemed to think them, like a terrible internet delay between his mind and his body. Did his body hurt as much as his head? Did he even have a body? He thought he felt one beneath a plain cotton blanket, but it was like remembering something secondhand. He wondered if he would be able to smell the room, or if he simply had forgotten how. He wondered if this would be forever. Time dissolved into fragments, hours or days, he couldn't tell, but eventually sensation returned. First, a prickling tingle like a limb waking from sleep. and cramps, agonizing full-body cramps that seized every muscle until he was stretched taut from every angle. His lungs rasped out only soft, pitiful moans, and his body convulsed. He drifted in and out of awareness, slipping through waves of pain until finally he surfaced with a hoarse cry. Nurses appeared, pressed something into his IV, and the world dulled again. He woke later to shouting, voices, maybe more, arguing near his bed or far down the hall, thought it was about him, and then it faded, as everything did. In another waking dream, his sister Emily sat beside his bed, holding his hand and crying. She spoke, but the words never reached him. Still, her voice soothed him. He relaxed and fell back under. The more he surfaced, the more he got pieces of the outside world. Doctors scanning screens, nurses scribbling on clipboards. He tried to speak, to ask what happened, but only managed silent motions of his mouth. His neck cramped when he tried to lift his head. Once, he thought he raised his hand toward a nurse, only for someone or something to press it back into place. Then sleep claimed him again. Nightmares follow. Nightmares followed. He dreamed his soul was being drained, every shred ripped away in painful seizures. He didn't know if his body writhed in the bed only in his mind, but the torment was endless, his thoughts trapped in the horror of being pulled apart piece by piece. When he finally woke, tears streamed down his cheeks. He hated himself for crying. He called himself weak and only sobbed harder for it. Emily was there again the next time, watching him with worried eyes. He tried to speak, but managed only a broken grunt. Hey, Aaron, she whispered, stroking his hand gently. You're okay. You were hurt, but you're getting better. Just sleep now. And as if commanded, he did. The next time he woke, words finally reached his lips, slow, halting, as if summoned from across an ocean. The nurse leaned close, nodding patiently as he forced out the question. What is happening to me? You were electrocuted, Aaron. Your heart stopped for several minutes. You're in the hospital now. Your sister's been here almost every day. She gave him a kind smile and left before he could manage another word. Electrocuted? His heart stopped? His mind reeled. Days passed? Real days? He counted meals, texts, visits from doctors who had asked him to wiggle toes or lift arms. To his surprise, he could. Hospital food, bland as cardboard, tasted divine after a week of nothing. Nurses replenished his electrolytes through his IV, telling him his body had burned through everything it had just to survive. Emily filled in the blanks. They'd been at the stable, an outdoor bar, overcast skies, a lightning strike on a transformer, the bolt jumped, or maybe the transformer discharged. The details were still unclear. Several people had been hit, all survived. Aaron had taken the worst of it. 10 days later, he was still left in the hospital. After she left, he tried desperately to remember the drinks, the laughter, any moment from that night. But wherever memory should have been, there was only darkness. Tears blurred his eyes when his favorite nurse entered to check his vitals. She smiled warmly, and his heart fluttered. Embarrassment flushed through him as he realized that she could see his flutter in real time on the monitor. He blinked, and for a moment, he thought the lights might have flickered. When he looked back, Nina, the nurse, was staring at him, mouth open. He glanced around. Nothing else had changed. It's you, she whispered, awe or maybe fear in her voice. It's me? He asked. She nodded once, then hurried from the room before she could say more. Aaron sighed. He'd always had a gift for driving away girls he liked. Apparently, that part of him had survived too. Chapter 4. Intel. Liz answered on the second ring. Hey, Nina, what's up? Liz, I know who it is. I know who the mage is, Nina blurted, voice buzzing with excitement. Okay, Liz said carefully. Did you talk to them? No, Liz, he's cute. If I talk to him, he'll think I'm crazy. Liz pinched the bridge of her nose. Right. Can I talk to him then? She forced herself to sound calm. Nina was sweet, but... What? No way. They'll fire me. I'm not even supposed to tell you his name is Aaron, and he lives at River's Edge Apartments on Valley Road, Unit 295. Nina beamed with pride as if she'd just won a medal for breaking confidentiality. Do you have a last name? Liz asked, still daring to hope. I have a lot of patience, Liz. I can't just memorize all that. Liz bit her lip. Fine. Can you repeat the address for me? Liz, I already told you I'm breaking the rules here. Why didn't you memorize it the first time? Nina's voice pitched higher with irritation. Nina, please. Liz let her exasperation bleed through. Ugh, Liz, I'm not allowed to tell you his name is Aaron, and he lives at the River's Edge Apartments, Unit 295. Nina huffed dramatically. Thank you, Nina. Liz ignored the performance. Do you know when he's being released? How would I know that? I'm not a doctor. Nina's tone made it sound like she was rolling her eyes. Okay. Would you at least consider talking to him? Tell him about us. See if he knows anything. Liz's voice softened into something close to pleading. Nope. Like I said, he's cute. I don't want him thinking I'm crazy. I'll let him think you're crazy. I'll meet him after you bring him in. Liz set the phone on the table, rubbing her temples. Nina's chatter still going on in the background. She waited for a pause and spoke into the mic. Nina, at least tell me when they discharge him, please. Yeah, sure. I'll let you know. Thanks, Nina. You're the best. Liz stabbed the hang-up button before the girl could say any more. Immediately, she dialed Hank, wondering, too. By the third, Liz was already muttering, Babe, Nina found him, but he didn't answer. Hank never let it go to 3 rings unless he was busy. Liz's mind jumped tracks. She texted Nina, Want lunch? What floor are you on? I'll bring you chai and a spring roll. Then she snatched her keys and headed for the Thai place. If Nina wouldn't talk to Aaron, Liz would. She wasn't about to wait until circumstances made it 10 times harder. Chapter 5. Secrets. Jake didn't want to be in class. He was dreaming of ways to escape. To cut school and head down to the river where he could cry in peace. Well, peace except the occasional homeless wanderer who sometimes joined from a distance, sharing the kind of tears only a hard life could earn. His mind was so far away that Miss Harper had to call his name 3 times before he even blinked. He looked up, startled, realizing the whole class was staring at him. Shit. What was she asking? Was it something about reading, a metaphor buried in poetry, some philosophical question? Jake wished he knew. He locked eyes with her and silently begged that it was just another nightmare. He glanced down to make sure that he wasn't naked, rubbed his tongue across his teeth to make sure they weren't loose or falling out, and whispered to the ceiling, Please, God. Jacob, you're needed in the office when you get back from space, Miss Harper said, holding out a yellow slip of paper. Jake froze. Did God just answer him? He rose slowly, wary of some cosmic trap. He stuffed his things into his backpack as the whole class watched in silence. The scrawny kid singled out again. He walked to the front, took the slip, and stepped out into the hallway. His chest burned with a flicker of hope that would surely be crushed, violently or gently. He couldn't yet tell. The walk stretched forever, his feet carrying him while his thoughts careened between hope and dread. When he finally entered the main office, he found the counselor, the principal, and a man in a dark suit waiting. The counselor beckoned him forward. Jacob, this is Officer Kent, she said gently, her voice sugared with concern. He has a legal order to question you. Jacob, the man said, his voice grinding like stone deep in a mine shaft. Detective Kent, you're not in trouble. No trouble. I just wanted to ask you a few questions. Please come with me. The sound of his voice vibrated through Jake's ribs. Goosebumps crawled up his arms. His heart hammered. I didn't do anything. I never told on any of the other boys. Why is a detective here to see me? He wondered. Jacob, you have to go with him, the principal added, stepping forward to rest a heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. Jake nodded, squeaked out a shaky, okay, and let Officer Gent guide him away. Both principal and counselor gave a small encouraging nod, but it didn't help. He followed Gent out the doors, straight to a black sedan, idling in front of the school. The detective opened the rear door and waited. Jake hesitated, glancing at the man's hidden eyes behind sunglasses, then slid in without a word. A folder sat on the seat beside him. He stared at it, too afraid to touch it, until the driver's door slammed shut. Gent looked back. You can look, Jacob, the detective rumbled. Go ahead. You should look. Jake hesitated, then said weakly, okay. Part of him hoped that this was nothing more than a golden ticket out of class. Another part knew his life was about to tilt off axis. He opened the folder. Inside was a printed Reddit post. The username leapt out, High Sierra Sammy. Jake's stomach dropped. The post described a friend with a bizarre gift. The power to see through any images of himself, photos, sketches, even stick figures labeled with his name. It mentioned the infamous toilet video, explained how Jake would watch the viewers like changing channels on the TV. It was his secret life, written in vivid detail. Jake's breath caught, his chest clenched, time froze. He looked up and saw Detective Gent smiling faintly at him in the rearview mirror. What is this? Jacob asked, though he already knew. I think you know what it is, Jacob. Gent's gravel-rough voice was calm, certain. Jake swallowed hard. I don't think I do. He stared out at the blur of passing cars, wishing himself anywhere but here. Jacob, I need your help, Gent said, still smiling. Jake said nothing. No one had ever believed his powers before, not his parents, not his classmates, not his friends, only Sam. And Sam had made him prove it 100 times before he ever accepted it. Jake had learned to keep it a secret. A strange gift from God, maybe, perhaps compensation for a miserable childhood, a consolation prize for being an outcast, an abused kid, an unwanted child. My help? What do you mean? Jake asked as he flipped through the papers. The printout continued. Hi, Sierra Sammy. I didn't believe it at first. He proved it over and over again. He can see through any photo of himself. It doesn't even have to be a photo, just a stick figure with his name works. Last year, some bullies filmed him dunking him in a toilet and put it online. It went viral, and he sees everyone who watches it. Says it's like changing channels on a TV. He's seen people shitting, people fucking. Mostly, it's just people staring while they swipe. If they look away, it changes to another channel. Jake shuddered. That's why people hold up signs with their tags and usernames now. He understood. I think you can help me save lives, Jacob, Gent said from the front seat. His sunglasses hid his eyes, his voice still resonant and heavy. You want to save lives, don't you? Jake felt the words crawl under his skin. He read on. Sam hadn't used his name, hadn't given anything away directly, but it was enough. How do you know it was me? Jake asked, his curiosity outweighing his instinct to lie. Our texts are good, Jake. Gent replied. We backtracked your friend's post, tracked his phone, cross-checked the times he posted and who he was with. Took less than 10 minutes to give me your name, birthday, social, and address. Jake's pulse raced. Pride, shame, fear, it was all tangled together, a storm he couldn't sort through. What do you need me to do? He asked. I need you to help me find a terrorist, Gent said, his voice grinding through the car like gravel. Chapter 6. Home. Emily wheeled Aaron towards the hospital's front doors. He could walk just fine, but the staff insisted everyone left in a chair. Heat rushed to his cheeks as they passed the waiting crowd, strangers glancing up at him as if he was a broken old man. The second they hit sunlight, he sprang out of the chair and strode toward Emily's hot pink Jeep. He didn't even think about the color anymore. Barbie Wheels was just a part of their lives. Emily parked the chair by the wall and caught up, shaking her head. How are you humiliated by a 30-second wheelchair ride, but not even a little embarrassed riding around in my neon Barbie car? Aaron shrugged. Easy. You're awesome, and your car's awesome. Nothing to be ashamed of. But a hospital exit gets you blushing bright red? She slid into the driver's seat, laughing. You're hopeless. I know, he smiled back. But I'm free. Take me to Beefy's. Emily groaned. The greasiest burgers in Rancho? You've been eating bland mush for 11 days, and that's the first thing you're craving? Bad habits keep me alive, sis. Aaron dug through the console with rising desperation. You know I don't vape anymore, Emily warned. Aaron slammed the lid shut. What the hell, sis? Now we have to stop at the smoke shop. Do you know how long it's been? Yeah, Aaron, I know. And because I know, I'm not taking you to get a new vape. He tried the puppy dog eyes. Not fair. Aaron, use this as a chance to quit. You don't need it. He glared, but didn't push further. Instead, he turned on the radio and flipped through endless ads until they pulled into Beefy's 5 minutes later. Come on, Emily said, climbing out. You're not hiding in the car like the passenger princess you are. Aaron sighed, but followed her. He ordered 5 burgers. His card refused to swipe. He looked at Emily hopefully. You've got to be kidding me. She got out her wallet. You make more money than I do. I'll pay you once I get a new phone, he promised. She rolled her eyes and tapped her card. Why 5 burgers? 4, he said. One's yours. You're actually going to eat 4 burgers? Not tonight, he smirked. They took stools at the end of the bar while they waited. Emily faked a gag. Ugh, breakfast, lunch, and dinner tomorrow? You're disgusting. Genius, Aaron corrected. Not cooking on my last day of medical leave. You're off again tomorrow? Emily asked. I can't exactly work from the hospital, sis. What if someone from work checks on you? He stared at her until she raised an eyebrow. Sis, I was in the hospital 11 days. I got one text. It was automated. We hope you get well soon. That's it. Emily frowned. Corporate life sounds like a horror show. Welcome to my nightmare. Their order was called, and they grabbed the bag before heading back to the Jeep. Can we stop to get a new phone for me tonight? Aaron asked hopefully. Sorry, I have to pack orders. Just overnight one. You'll get it tomorrow. Or you could come help me pack orders. You know I'd love to help, but... He smirked. You're an ass, she said, punching his shoulder. Ow, sis, injured, remember? Just got out of the hospital? I'll put you right back in. They laughed all the way to the car. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Emily finally asked what she'd been dying to ask the whole time. So, you ready to talk about your cute nurse friend? Aaron laughed. How long have you been holding on to that? She was cute. You talked to her a few times. I saw you both blushing. It's past time you get back out there anyway. I'll admit, she was cute, but I didn't ask for her number, and I only got her first name, so no date. You're such a coward. I don't hit on people that are paid to talk to me. It's one of my rules. Emily shook her head. You're decent looking, you've got money, a great job, even a house. You're the only person I know who bought property in their 20s. Leave it, sis, please. Why don't you live in your house anyway? She pivoted. I'm making double the mortgage renting it out. I want to retire by the time I'm 35. What about your apartment? Utilities only. Some girl owns it and lives out of state. I just collect her mail and occasionally send her a text with a picture of something. Emily gaped. Are you serious? You get to live basically rent-free and collect rent? How do you think I could lend you the money for your business, sis? Her irritation melted. Thank you, Aaron, really. I needed that. She sounded almost reverent. You don't have to thank me. We take care of each other. Aaron's smile radiated real warmth. She pulled up in front of his building and grinned. We're here. Out. Before I drag you to pack orders with me. He tipped an imaginary hat and jogged up the stairs with a bag of burgers. Emily only realized he'd taken the 5 once he was halfway up. You little shit, she called out after him. He never even glanced back before vanishing into his apartment. Emily shook her head as she pulled away. Chapter 7. Missing the Train. Liz closed her eyes and clenched her fists. Nina, you said he hadn't been discharged. That was less than an hour ago. He was still here when I talked to you, Liz. Nina shuffled foot to foot, wringing her hands in front of her. Guilty, even though she'd done nothing wrong. Besides, you have his address. Liz exhaled hard, the weight of her frustration escaping with it. You're right, Nina. You did great. I'm sorry. Nina brightened, bouncing a little in relief. If you want, I'm off tomorrow. I could go with you, she offered, eager to make it right. Liz tilted her head, considering. I thought the whole point of me talking to him was so he wouldn't think you were crazy. Nina's eyes went wide, like she'd forgotten that part. You're right. I can't have him thinking I'm crazy. You talk to him. I'll meet him later. Liz shook her head but smiled despite herself. I'm leaving, Nina. Enjoy your lunch. I love you. Thanks, Liz. You're the best. I love you too. They hugged quickly, tightly, then Liz strode to the elevators, her thoughts tangled in a storm, replaying every option, every angle. By the time she surfaced from her haze, she was already in her car, music blasting through the speakers. She didn't remember the walk, didn't remember crossing the parking lot. She gripped the steering wheel. What are you doing, Liz? What's the next move? She asked aloud, hoping the sound of her own voice would anchor her. She sat through the whole song, frozen in indecision. Then the music cut, and her phone flashed on the dash. Sweetheart, Hank. Hey, babe, she answered, her voice tight but softening. Hey, I saw you called. What's up? Hank's steady voice filled the air. Nina thinks she found the adept. He was at the hospital until about an hour ago. I've got his address, but she hesitated. I don't know what I should do. That's great news, hon. Do you want me to come with you? Yeah, that would be great. Relief slipped out of her chest in a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Where are you? I'll come pick you up and we'll go together. I'm at the nursery, but I'll meet you at home. 15 minutes? Not home. The apartment, Liz teased. We'll be home in just a few more weeks, babe. Hank smiled carried through the line. Not home. And maybe after we talk to the adept, we'll swing by the property again, take another look around, make it more of a home? His voice dripped with meaning. Oh, I bet you'd like that, Liz shot back playfully. Don't pretend you wouldn't like it too. Fine, after we meet Aaron, we'll go see the property. Love you, babe, Hank said, his voice full and warm. Love you too, Liz hung up, putting the car in gear and pulling out of the lot. Her hesitation burned away with fresh resolve. Chapter 8, Odd Teachers. Jake still wasn't sure if this was a blessing or a curse. He'd spent 2 hours trying to explain to Detective Gent that his powers didn't work the way the old man thought, but Gent wouldn't let it go. He made Jake explain again, then again with a metaphor, and then with an example about drawings labeled with Jake's name. Each time, Gent twisted the words into another version of the same argument. Jake wasn't using his abilities to his full potential. By the time their talk turned to an argument, Gent finally stepped out for a break, promising to grab Jake a snack from the vending machines. Jake sat alone at the desk, a folder of photos spread out in front of him. He slid them back and forth like cards. They seemed random, mostly people in their 20s with a few older faces mixed in. Jake stared at each one, trying to concentrate, but all he got was an endless replay of his own humiliation, clips of himself being dunked in a toilet, replaying in his mind on a cruel loop. Just can't see what I want, old man, Jake muttered. He picked up a photo of a pretty girl inside. He wanted so badly to help the detective, wanted to save lives, wanted to be a hero. But he wasn't a hero. He never had been. Jake put his head down on the desk, closed his eyes, flipped through mental images like channels, faces blurred by meaningless. Then something caught his attention. At first, it seemed normal. An empty room, a TV left running while someone stepped out. But then he realized it was different. The image moved, not a video clip, a kitchen. Someone was making a sandwich. There was no bad music overlay, no streamer commentary, just the scrape of bread and the shuffle of a body. A faint reflection flickered in the window, a ghost of a face. Jake froze. He lifted the photo in his hand. Amanda Knox. Sandy blonde hair, a nose so cute it made his chest ache. The reflection in the window was her. Jake's jaw went slack. He wasn't watching her through a screen. He was there, through her eyes. She leaned against the counter, waiting for the eggs to boil. Jake could smell the steam, the sulfur tang in the air. He could smell flowers from outside, rich and sweet. He felt the counter pressing against her hips, the chill of the surface against her skin. This wasn't watching, this was inhabiting. He was a passenger in her body, feeling everything she felt. The door creaked, and Gent walked in, wide grin on his face as soon as he saw Jake. You did it, didn't you? Gent's gravel voice vibrated with excitement. Tell me where she is. Jake didn't even think. Kitchen? No, Jake. I need an address, a street. Gent's voice was almost trembling. She's just Looking out a window, I don't see an address. Don't look through your eyes, Jacob. Move. You can go anywhere. Tell me where she is. Jake tried, and it worked. It was almost natural to slip free of her sight, though the experience shifted immediately. Gone were the smells, the heat, the textures. Instead, he drifted through the house in a flat detail, like a paused video game. Frozen images he could glide around, hollow and lifeless. Still, he pressed on. He heard the crinkle of a chip bag behind him. It was close, breathing heavily. Jake tried to tune it out, sweat beading on his forehead as the strain built. Then he found it. 1695, Jake whispered. Street? Kent's voice cracked, almost desperate. Jake pressed harder, the dull ache in his head growing. Closest cross streets, Gimbal or Mercer? I think Mercer, but I can't tell. The door slammed. Kent was gone. Jake Jake's concentration shattered. He blinked hard, sucked in air like he'd been running. His temples throbbed with pain. But even through the exhaustion, his heart pounded with pride. He'd done it. He'd helped. And for the first time, he felt incredible. Chapter 9. Consequences. Rylan moved the familiar way between worlds, traveling threads he'd carved long before most people could fathom their existence. He had found each of these worlds, explored them, and brought his people to them over the centuries. At the time, he believed he was righteous, forging a bold new path. He'd brought civilization, science, and a deeper understanding of magic wherever he went. He'd given ordinary people chances they'd never had before. Duty had buried him so deeply he'd never had time for curiosity. The worlds he'd left behind lingered in his memory like fond ghosts. He remembered laughing faces, shared meals, friendships, forged under alien skies. In his mind, they all still lived beautiful lives in their homes with their families, in a tapestry of thriving cultures. The illusion had shattered over a decade ago when he had learned the truth. The Shapers hadn't been saviors. Their presence had always triggered a universal correction, a sweeping event that scoured the worlds of their life. It wasn't death in a traditional sense. There was no violence, no aftermath. The living simply vanished. Plants, animals, bacteria, every trace of biological life blinked out of existence, leaving only the chemical remnants of what had been. Those rare civilizations that had lived in perfect harmony with nature were erased without a footprint, as if they'd never existed at all. The process left behind effigies of tranquility, silent, perfect, and terrible. The only sounds were winds brushing across alien landscapes, the creak of shifting trees now frozen in time. The quiet ran so deep it resonated through the soul, a silence that seemed to press its weight into every living thing that dared to trespass. Even his own heartbeat felt too loud. Rylan had walked through these graveyards, tears streaking his face, heart heavy enough to break. Sometimes he found bodies, perfectly preserved, without microbes to decay them. Eerie statues frozen mid-motion, eternal witness to the ends of the world. In the beginning, he had clung to hope. He imagined prodigies strong enough to anchor themselves to their reality, miracles who had resisted the universe's purge. He told himself that somewhere, someone was alive, divinely preserved. That hope died slowly as logic took over. Even if anyone had survived the purge, they would have succumbed to starvation or a collapse of their ecosystems by now. Still, he refused to let go. It was hope, fragile and foolish, that drove him forward. This trip, he brought a new tool, a survey pod, tall and sleek, designed by its friend at Sanctuary. It carried 12 drone tubes, each equipped with cameras and sensors capable of scanning entire continents. The drones launched with metallic hiss, streaking skyward faster than the eye could follow. They could circumnavigate the planet in less than 24 hours. Rylan would watch them vanish into the atmosphere, then step back through the waves to repeat the ritual. 278 worlds. He'd seeded every one of them with the Shaper's gifts, and every one of them was now silent, a graveyard. He could cover nearly 30 worlds a day once he got a good rhythm, his body burning through reserves of energy until he was forced to stop. The next day, he would retrace his steps, tablet in hand, to pull the data from the pods. Every scan came back the same, no sign of life, not even corrupted readings or hopeful blips to spark imagination, just clean, clinical emptiness. The weight settled deeper on his chest with every report. Another day, another world, another grave. He passed the 100 surveyed world mark on his 8th day of actual searching, after years of simply walking in hopeless punishment of himself and his ignorance. Rylan stepped through reality again into a sun-bleached plateau, the red cliffs of the horizon casting long shadows over the cracked riverbed. He tapped his tablet, waiting for the survey pod's interface to sync. 11 drones had already returned to their tubes, gleaming like dormant sentinels. The 12th slot was empty. A frown creased his face. He tapped the interface again. Drone 12, active, no return. The drone's last ping showed it hovering less than 10 kilometers away, but the feed was black. No error message, no telemetry, just a static void. Rylan slung the tablet over his shoulder and began walking, his boots crunching on the baked earth. The silence here felt heavier than usual. Even the wind seemed afraid to whisper. As he crossed the plateau, he thought about all the other silent worlds, all the hundreds of times this process had been boring, mechanical. A part of him wanted this to be another error, another fake spark of hope. But the dread twisting in his gut told him otherwise. He topped a ridge, eyes sweeping the landscape. The drone's beacon glowed faintly from the valley below, nestled in a grove of petrified trees. The sight stopped him cold. Half the drone's casing was shattered. Its cameras hung like torn eyes, and etched deep into the cracked ground beneath it, in a perfect circle around the wreckage, were strange markings, symbols that hadn't been there. Something or someone had caught the drone. The world was supposed to be empty and silent, but something had been here. Rylan's heart pounded, a chill prickling his skin as he reached for the necklace where he had mounted the trinket that he'd taken from Mora. Finally, he whispered to the wind, voice both heavy with dread and laced with a dangerous flicker of hope. Then, on edge, Liz was already at the curb when Hank pulled up to the apartment. She bounced with nervous energy, grinning as she slid into the passenger seat of the old Chevy. She leaned in to kiss his cheek. "Love you, babe," Hank said. "Love you too," Liz replied, tugging on her seatbelt. "Where am I headed?" Hank asked. She didn't answer, just turned her phone to him, map open, route already marked. Hank chuckled and shook his head, pulling away. The apartment complex was only 15 minutes away, but the drive felt heavy with anticipation. "Deep breaths, Liz. Stay calm." He glanced across the cab and saw her leg bouncing nonstop. She inhaled deeply. "And out," he said, counting to 5 with her. She smiled nervously, legs still bouncing. "Thank you for coming with me," she said. "Of course. Tell me about him." "Well," Liz said, shrugging, "I have his address, unit number. His name's Aaron. Nina says he's hot." Hank laughed. "Not a lot to go on, but maybe enough." They pulled into a spot near the complex. Hank gave her a concerned look. Liz drew in another breath and squared her shoulders. "You want me to go alone?" Hank offered. No, we'll go together," Liz replied. He climbed out first and waited in front of the truck, smiling at her as she collected herself. She hopped out, light on her feet, skipping a step as she joined him. "Liz, we're just talking to a guy who might be an adept," Hank reminded her, wrapping his arms around her shoulders as they walked toward the breezeway. Then he froze. Blue sedan idled in the spot down the corridor. The windshield glare hid any driver, if there was one. Hank's heart thundered. Was it Officer Dickhead? The thought alone rooted him in place. Liz followed his gaze and stiffened. That might not be him, she whispered, but her voice betrayed her fear. Yeah, Hank murmured, scanning the lot. He turned to Liz and gripped her shoulders. What do we do if it is him, though? She stared back at him. I don't know. Should we leave? Probably, Hank said, turning back towards the truck. Liz slid into the passenger seat without a word, shutting the door quietly. Hank moved around to the back, climbed in, and sat with his hand on the seat back, one hand on the steering wheel. He stared at her, mind blank. Do we wait or leave? Liz asked softly. He hesitated. Let's just go, Hank said. Come back tomorrow? Liz asked hopefully. Yeah, tomorrow. He started the engine and backed out slowly. Neither of them spoke as they wound their way out of the lot, both suffocating under the same unspoken fear.